2025 is going to be another crazy year for anime. There are going to be new shows, continuations of some exciting shows, and even some new movies. These are some of the ones that I'm most excited for, so let's get onto the list. Starting off with Sakamoto Days. Starting this list off with one that has technically already started. It debuted on January 11th. The story follows Toru Sakamoto, who's a former hitman who is now retired and is just running a family shop and trying to be along with his loved ones. But just like any other story like this retirement doesn't last very long. His past ends up kind of catching up to him, and so now he has to kind of fight to defend those he loves. This is going to be one of those shows where there's a lot of action with like the opposing gangs trying to attack Sakamoto and his family and him trying to defend them. There's going to be some comedy with like subtle moments of jokes here and there between his family and his friends, kind of making it kind of out there and outlandish but realistic. And then there's of course going to be loving moments between Sakamoto and his family. Probably there's going to be something where he'll have to defend them or anything like that, and it could end up being a little more emotional. It will be moments like this where things will be kind of relatable for people, because everyone has like family and has some sort of connection with their family in some way. So that's going to be what draws people in. Then the action and the fights is going to be more of what kind of keeps people in, because that's the type of thing that draws people in and kind of keeps you entertained. So if this is something that you might be interested in, Sakamoto Days is already airing. It debuted on January 11th on Netflix, and so far is going to have 11 episodes, which I know seems very short, but just remember that the second half or second season is already slated to come out in July of 2025. So that kind of also fits it in with the anticipated of 2025, because we're already watching this first season now, and then the second season is coming out in the summer. Next is going to be Dr. Stone's final season, Science Future. The basic story of Dr. Stone is essentially randomly all of humanity basically got turned into stone statues, and no one really knows the reason why. And then thousands of years later, our main character ends up somehow waking up from this statuesque state. He ends up kind of finding out some of the people around him are starting to kind of wake up as well. And then they team up together to kind of start rebuilding humanity, rebuilding society. And the thing that I find quite interesting about this show is that you get to see different people's personalities and their strengths and weaknesses in different parts of society, and seeing how different people act when they don't have to conform to the societal norms. Now that there isn't society around them, some of these people go to the full extremes, and as a viewer, it's interesting to watch that, like, oh, I don't know if that's cool. Are they a villain? Are they not? Or are they just kind of acting on real instinct? And this season continues on by getting even more people together so that they can travel to new locations to then get even more resources together so they can continue to grow even larger into an even bigger society. And then even with this travel and growth, they're gonna end up trying to get to build like rocket fuel to try to get to the moon. That I think is gonna be interesting to see, that kind of dynamic of how people are gonna try to make this actually work, for one. But two, I think it's gonna be crazy because it's going from Stone Age all the way up to future space travel. So it's gonna be cool to see the full shift to something completely different. And so this is another one that has debuted already. It came out January 9th. So if you're interested in it, make sure to check it out on Netflix or Crunchyroll. Next, the first movie off this list, Haikyuu Battle of the Garbage Dump Part 2. I'm not sure if there's going to be a new title towards this or not, or if it is just going to be called Part 2. I guess we still have to find out when the actual full trailers come out. Haikyuu has its second movie coming out this year, and it's being advertised as its final movie. And now, so far, we don't really know if that means it's the final movie and just finishing off the arc of the tournament that Karasuno's in right now, or if it's gonna end up being something with finishing that arc and then a major time skip and finishing the entire series. I know myself, as well as a lot of people online, are really hoping that it's just the end of the tournament that the boys are in right now, and then we're gonna get another season afterwards sometime in the future. But as of right now, only time can tell. We have no idea where things are going. And with that, we don't even know what the movie's even really gonna be like. For example, I saw the first Haikyuu movie, Battle of the Garbage Dump, and I liked it, but it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be. In other words, they did too much on the background of Kenma, and they didn't play as much volleyball as I believe they should have. But I did like some of this kind of storytelling methods. Things like the POV shot of Kenma and seeing the sweat literally drip down his face was really cool and really interesting. But even with that, I just wasn't as invested in the movie as I normally am when I'm watching the show. So I really hope that this movie has a lot more of the big character moments and big rallies and exciting moments that the show is normally known for in comparison to the first one. But either way, I know that when the news gets announced, when the movie's gonna come out, and when a trailer finally gets released, I'm gonna be super excited, and I'm gonna try to see it as soon as possible. So all in all, I am quite excited for this movie, but I am a little concerned that they are just gonna be rushing the end of the whole series compacted into this one movie. So if that ends up happening, that's going to be a little upsetting. Are you excited for this movie too? Let me know in a comment below. Now, before we continue on with the video, I just want to say thank you for watching so far. And if you're liking the video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. It definitely helps me out. But other than that, let's continue on. And now these next two, I'm going to kind of keep together into one, because the first one is My Hero Academia Season 8, the final arc of My Hero Academia. But then this second one is My Hero Academia Vigilantes, more of a prequel to My Hero Academia. My Hero Academia Season 8, in my opinion, is still going to be pretty epic, because not only are there going to be some great fights, especially considering it's going to be continuing off right where Season 7 ended, and starting off with the fight with All Might versus All For One, but it will also have, most likely, some great individual character moments, like in Season 7 when it was the full Todoroki family being the ones to finally fully take down Dabi. And because of what we know so far, I believe it's going to have a good amount of viewing of what kind of life is like after this war arc, like kind of the time skip of showing where all the characters are in their lives and kind of showing where society is and where have things changed or not because of this war. So because of those moments of it most likely having great fights, great character moments, as well as a great kind of continuation of the story, I think this series is going to be a fantastic series and honestly a great way of ending the series. So far, it looks like there isn't going to be an exact release date, but it is slated to come out in fall of 2025. So make sure to check it out on Crunchyroll. Keeping it with My Hero Academia, we gotta go with My Hero Academia Vigilantes. So Vigilantes is an MHA spin-off that takes place in the same world, same universe, but about 5 years earlier than when the main story started. This story follows the main character Koshi Himawari, if I'm pronouncing that right, hopefully I am, who's just a pretty much normal guy. He just has a regular 9-to-5 style job, and he lives life with a pretty basic everyday type of quirk that isn't overly strong. He basically has the ability to kind of glide around as if he's kind of like pushing himself or skating on ice. He ends up getting in a situation where he ends up wanting to kind of fight crime, even though he's not a registered hero. So because of this, he ends up meeting up with other characters who are also kind of doing the same thing of fighting crime without an official hero's license, hence the name of the Vigilantes. I think this show is going to end up being quite interesting, because not only are we going to still be getting into the My Hero universe, which My Hero is one of my favorite anime of all time, so it's cool to still get a continuation of it. But it's also going to be cool because we'll get to see some of the younger versions of some of the characters we already know, like All Might and Aizawa. But I think it will also be pretty interesting to see this world from a different type of perspective, one of just kind of an everyday person, instead of seeing it from the view of the hero or like the wannabe heroes that we already know. And with knowing My Hero Academia, I think we'll still get some pretty cool, interesting villains and therefore some pretty cool fights. So all in all, I know I'm excited to get into watching My Hero Academia Vigilantes, which is going to be debuting sometime April of this year. If you're interested as well, make sure to check it out on Crunchyroll. Next is one of the best anime to use sound as a storytelling device, and that's Fire Force Season 3 Part 1. It's going to be so good. I really love this show. This season of Fire Force is going to continue off pretty much right where the last season ended, which was a battle between Company 8 versus the White Clad, who are basically the ones who are behind all of these human spontaneous combustions into these flame creatures. And I know for sure this is going to end up being some more pretty epic fights, which is going to be sweet. We're going to obviously get a continuation of Shinra's fire abilities and see how many more epic moves and abilities that he gets into and grows as a character, which will be also really cool. Knowing the show, with these fights, we're gonna get some of that epic, crazy music that comes along with it. The crazy. One of the best parts of this show. And then, we're gonna get that little sprinkling of that very interesting fan service that the show is also known for. To be honest, other than that, there isn't a whole lot to my knowledge that the new season is going to be about. It's obviously going to be, like I just said, a continuation of this fight and battle and the continuation of the story. There isn't a whole lot of information to what it is as of yet. The trailer only shows kind of these little fight scenes, and there isn't a whole lot of plot development yet. And because it's been so long since the last season, I don't even remember a whole lot of even what the show is even about. I just remember it being super epic. Either way, I know it's going to be quite epic, so I'm going to be quite excited to watch it when it comes out, which is first airing in April of this year. Again, just make sure to check it out on Crunchyroll. Next is the Demon Slayer Infinity Castle movie. This is going to be so big, so crazy, oh my god. Demon Slayer looks like it's going to be finishing off its series with yet another movie called Infinity Castle. And honestly, there isn't really much to really talk about as of yet, considering we saw basically the beginning of what this movie is going to be when Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, alongside all the other Hashira, got pulled into Muzan's Infinity Castle. So that's basically what this movie is going to be. I don't think there's going to be a huge amount of character development because we got a decent amount in the last season and in the previous seasons with all the other Hashira as well as the main characters. I think this movie is going to make up for a good amount of the action from considering there wasn't as much in the previous season. This is going to be mostly action, mostly fights, which I'm not complaining about. I think it's going to be pretty cool. I really hope that they still develop a good amount of the story, at least at the end, to show how Tanjiro and Nezuko are going to end up still being together, hopefully, by the end of everything, once everything kind of gets resolved. I know I'm going to be pretty excited to see it when it comes out, which, with the information that I found, is slated to come out in September. And next, we gotta go with Dandadan Season 2. It's pretty great that Dandadan Season 2 has already been announced. I know myself, just like a lot of people, really liked the first season of Dandadan back in December. It was such a quirky, interesting, but yet heartfelt style show. I know that this first season was really just crazy and outlandish, so I know that the next season is going to be as well. All we can really assume is that this new season is going to be continuing on with chasing after Okarun's golden ball, and with that, even more shenanigans, with even more unique creatures, aliens, demons, monsters, and just interesting stories and powers. I know it's going to be crazy, outlandish, and interesting, just like the first season was. I'm definitely excited to watch it on Netflix when it comes out in July. And now, one of the ones that is a continuation of one of my favorite anime from last year, that's going to be Kaiju number 8, the second season. This is going to be so good, I can already tell. Kaiju number 8 was one of my favorite animes from last year. I really liked Kafka as a character because he was kind of more realistic of a type of person in comparison to normal like shonen anime protagonists. He did have the goal of wanting to grow and get bigger and stronger and kind of get higher up in the ranks, but it's told in a more kind of realistic way in comparison to normal shonen, where it's believe in yourself, get better, believe in your friends, get better and stronger. Whereas Kafka is more of a just realistic, it doesn't necessarily always work out type of main character. So it was definitely interesting to have someone relatable. So then getting into season 2, we're going to be getting more development of Kafka's ability to take control better. Instead of like at the end of the first season when he basically got possessed by the kaiju and he was almost not able to get out of it. It's going to be interesting to see him kind of develop this ability to kind of shift in between himself, partially within the kaiju and all the way to the full monster, and him trying not to get to that full extreme again. And then we'll most likely also get quite a bit of development between these like humanoid kaiju, the ones that actually have the ability to kind of actually think and strategize based off of the environment around them. And hopefully we'll get a lot more development as to why they're even there. Like, what is the actual plan of these kaiju, or just alien and just in general? Why are they there? Why are they there attacking the nations, attacking the world? What is their main goal? Hopefully we'll get more information onto that as well. And of course, we're gonna get a lot more epic fights, just like what we did in the last season. So I know I'm gonna be stoked to watch it when it comes out in August of this year. Again, gotta check it out on Crunchyroll. And now, just to close us out, a quick rapid fire. Definitely looking forward to Spy Family Season 3, which is due to come out in October of 2025. There's gonna be the Chainsaw Man movie, the Rise arc, that's gonna be coming to theaters. Just a continuation from the Chainsaw Man first season. First season was pretty epic, so I know it's going to be crazy, bloody, gory. So far, what I found, there isn't any specific date when it's coming out, but it's slated for sometime this year. And then lastly, there's going to be a new Devil May Cry anime that's coming out on Netflix. That's exactly as it sounds. It's going to be a new anime based off the Devil May Cry video games by Capcom. So those games are a crazy shoot 'em up style game, and they have a lot of action. So I know that an anime of this franchise will be just intense and crazy as well. And this is due to come out in April. So there's my list of my most anticipated anime shows and movies that are coming out this year. What are some of the ones that I missed, or some of the ones that you're most excited for? Let me know in a comment below. And if you like me or any of the content that I make, maybe consider subscribing. It will help let you know when my next video comes out. But until then, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.